Probably going to focus mostly on Canary Wharf. It's one of the most famous places in London. You can see it on the skyline. It's a load of skyscrapers. So we're going to start here on what is called West India Quay. And there's a bit of a clue in West India Quay to what it was. And effectively, as you can see on the right here, we have these old dock buildings. These are grade 1 listed buildings, and they are part of what at the time was one of the most kind of extraordinary modernist ambitions, a giant dock complex in order to rationalise and make efficient the bringing in of goods from around Britain's trading empire. A trading empire which, as more and more we're discussing and being aware of and reappraising, was a trading empire based on some very, very gruesome details. And it was built by somebody called Robert Milligan. And what we have here is the plinth that held a statue of the said Robert Milligan. The statue was dismounted by the local authority because obviously, as you can see, the statue is right next to a load of water. And just as in Bristol, where the statue of Colston, the slave-owning slave trader, was dunked in some water, it was pretty obvious that looks like 2, 4, 6 meters, very, very easy to chuck this statue in the water. So it's been taken down. The Museum of London Docklands has within it a very important exhibition about the slave trade, but it doesn't really say it in the title, it just says Museum of London Docklands. So nobody would necessarily say it's a museum of slavery, although in many ways it is, and it could be, and maybe it should be. I'm going to show you something really interesting around the corner. Follow me. This is like a cartouche on a building, right? So it's like treating the building a bit like a museum or a bit like a page in a book. And basically, I'm just going to summarize it. It's basically saying that this is a kind of great technical trading achievement in the name of Britain. Robert Milligan, who we saw the statue disappeared of, owned 500 slaves personally. We know he was the heir to a slave plantation. He was involved in the construction of this infrastructure. And then also he's supported here by a politician who was a campaigner. It says here, the Right Honourable William Pitt. Certainly raises questions about structural and institutional racism. When Canary Wharf was built, they had to actually connect it to the city. This financial centre had to be connected to the other original financial centre. So they built a road tunnel. They spent £500 million on the road tunnel. So if only they got their priorities right, we'd actually have a probably more decent way of getting here. This is like the most alienating, unpleasant sort of environment to be as a pedestrian, that effectively Canary Wharf is not a place you can walk into. It's just all to do with making it so that you can drive very quickly from your office here to a meeting in the City of London or to the West End. The history of Canary Wharf and how it came to be. This was a derelict bit of land that had been used for these docks up until the 1960s, and there was something like 150,000 people lost their jobs. It was empty, it was a national disgrace. But then something really strange happened over here. There's this idea that you would turn this district into a financial centre, a kind of back office to the city. And it was only really enabled because of enormous government support. The entire investment that you put into any new building was offset against tax. So effectively, if you spent 100 million building something like this, you didn't have to pay 100 million in tax. Architecturally, it kind of spoke of Britain's ambitions to become like America. Canary Wharf was master planned by SOM, the New York practice, famous for its skyscrapers, not necessarily famous for its master plans. The idea, obviously, thank you, was to bring to Canary Wharf some of the dynamism, some of the booming economy of the 1980s America. You know, this was a kind of macho capitalism and a kind of macho architecture to meet it. So what we have is a lot of architecture by American firms. SOM, KPF, Caesar Pelli, Free Cobb Pay and Partners. So the building in front of me is by KPF. Again, it's a Reuters building. It's one of the first ones that was built. It's finished in this most extraordinary stone. All the stones are taken, again, from the New World of America. And it kind of references this attempt to make good on the ludicrous ambition that this is America. It really is, because it's actually built from stones from the Americas. Over here, This tower is the Credit Suisse building. It's one of the first. And the architect is Free Cobb Pay and Partners. And so for the more sort of nerdy, you'll realise that means I.M. Pei, who's considered to be one of the greatest architects of the 20th century, who designed the restoration of the Louvre. This probably isn't Pei's finest work, but it's possibly actually one of the nicer buildings here, but for its kind of scaled back, polite manners and the fact that it really does what it says on the tin. So I'm going to show you what is undoubtedly the worst big building in London. It is utterly huge. So this is 10 Cabot Square. It's by SOM. It looks like some weird postmodern, classically infused behemoth of a structure. I mean, it looks more like something out of Gotham City that thinks it's possibly in Dublin, but in a kind of weird, inappropriate way. It doesn't really work in any way at all. 1 Canada Square. So 1 Canada Square is the kind of prestige building. It's designed by Cesar Pelli, Argentinian-American architect, and it's entirely finished in stainless steel, kind of shimmering structure. So this is Crossrail Place. This is a major building by Norman Foster. We're now on a sky bridge. Sky bridges are back thanks to Norman Foster here in Canary Wharf. This connects the main sort of towers and shopping centre to Crossrail Place. As you can see, this wasn't really designed for cyclists. Where are we? Is this the Eden Project? Is this the spaceship Earth, the Earthship? No, this is the roof of Crossrail Place. I've just gone from quite a concrete, harsh environment to a sort of paradise. Or is it just a kind of fleeting moment, a place where people can have a quick lunch out of a triangle-shaped cardboard box? So in many ways, this is kind of like a therapeutic space. This is offering to Canary Wharf everything that it didn't have before. I feel like, certainly not like I'm in America, and you can see these massive beams here, this like big structural timber. So this is Will Alsop's, I guess, 1980s vision of what Canary Wharf would be. It's a control room for this bridge, and what's so amazing about Canary Wharf is it integrates all this kind of heavy infrastructure, this nautical machinery, which isn't really, it's barely used, but effectively this bridge has to be able to open to allow a large boat to come in and possibly service the Billingsgate market. So this is a really, really, really cool bit of architecture. It's really distinctive, it's really unique, and it really talks about the future of this place, the future of this place that existed before it was ever built, because this thing was one of the very first things put in here. One of the things about Canary Wharf is it's kind of famous for its artwork, and you see this more and more in kind of modern development industry, the fact that you have to kind of distract people's eyes from what they're seeing. And if you think about it right now, really, at no time in history, recent history, has there ever been a time when people don't want to work behind desks. We all know that the modern office environment is unsustainable, it's unhealthy, it's uninteresting. And yet beyond these lobbies, all these buildings promise is just enormous, uninteresting office spaces. Why on earth would anybody want to spend their life in them? But hang on a second, there's an artwork. Let's think about that instead. So it's a kind of epic distraction technique. And you see this all over the estate, and this is possibly, there's actually some of it is very good, but this is possibly the worst example. I find it very uninteresting. Look at this landscape. You can really let your imagination run wild. I mean, this literally is the kind of place where all you can do is come out of your office after being sacked and cry. We're approaching a tower by Herzog and de Meuron, who are pretty much the architect of the 21st century. This is their latest contribution to the success that is London. What is it? It's a residential tower. But what I want to say about the architecture of this tower, I do actually quite like it, because it has 3 segments. There's a lower level, and these are your more affordable apartments, if there can ever be a word like affordable used to describe this building. These apartments are lower down and they're cheaper because they don't have the prestigious views. The second level are slightly bigger apartments which then have slightly better balconies. And then the highest level are the best apartments with the biggest balconies, which are double height balconies, something you see on the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. So this is a tower which is a perfect expression of the financial mechanisms, the funding which allows it to exist. I'd like to add that all of my criticisms come from a place of love. I absolutely love this place. It makes me really sad that it's so difficult to get people to come and talk about the architecture here, because just nobody ever wants to come here. But it is great, and it's weird, and I think it could be reconfigured and adapted over time, which is why I'm making so many points about it. Fucking Porsche driver!